now it's time to take a look at the most important part of the show. It is, of course, the indie of the week.
Oh.
And this week, it's Darth Cheese. It's not Darth Cheese, but it looks like that to me, and it's in French, and I can't pronounce it. However, it is From Trenches to Barricades when translated into a language that I apparently can speak. So it's a fascinating little compact and bijou range that crosses a couple of different sort of divides or theaters. I suppose time period wise, it's relatively similar though. So you're looking at early 20th century. So either just prior to the First World War or during the First World War. And they have two clinker ranges, I'm going to say.
I see a Lawrence of the Arabian description.
The Lawrence of the Arabia is great. Now, they do have, in fact, I might actually start there just to give you the heads up on this. So they do have a couple of games.
Okay.
One is a board game where you are
Le Belle du Desert.
Ottomans against the Arabs during the Arab insurrection, and it's a sort of a board game where you have to do it's like find the hidden Arabs in the desert type of affair. It's a bit peculiar. It's also all in French, so I'm just prefacing the fact that they do systems, but they only do them in French. So we're really
you
here
are
to look
from France. This is perfect.
Or if you speak French, well done you. Unless you're Canadian, I mean, it's terrible. But they also have the From the Trenches to the Barricades game system as well. Again, that neck of the woods. So a skirmish game. 30 miniatures aside. And again, similar. Interesting thing about both that and Le Belle du Desert is it seems to be played out on like a grid system.
I like that. Yeah.
Which is why they do a range of mats which are gridded.
Ooh, and different sizes as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, which is interesting because there's a whole slew of games that work off gridded mat systems, like To the Strongest and Age of Penda and things like that. So finding mats that actually have grid systems on them is always nice. I think they do a few different flavors. So there's not just the desert. There's also a sort of grassy type thing. I want to find
a muddy field somewhere.
That type of thing. Where's my accessories? There's my accessories. Here we go. So you can have your muddy battleground. Yeah. So, not going to be for everyone, but if you plan on playing their particular rule set, handy. And like I say, there are other rule sets out there that having a gridded tabletop mat for would not be the worst in the world. However, fleeing from that and having a look at the Tiny Fighting Men, because that's really why we're here, isn't it, though? Isn't it? We'll take a look at the Russian Civil War first. Because it's obviously with Blood and Valor coming out of late, and a big chunk is devoted to the Russian Civil War. It means that if you're after forces for it, if you're after your Bolsheviks or your armored cars, that sort of thing, there's a ton of stuff in here, and it's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. So I'll chuck in a Cossack regiment first, because everybody loves Cossacks with the big furry hats.
Very nice.
And great looking figures. I believe I'm going to butcher the name, I expect. But I believe all the Russians were sculpted by Propylene Folescu. That's definitely not how it's pronounced. Anyway, Polish sculptor. Now, the first name is definitely Propylene.
Yes.
Presumably, that's not a real Polish name. That's a stage name. But who can say? But he does some terrific work.
They're very nicely detailed.
Not sure what else he's worked on. I had a wee nosy at his face page, and he's done a lot of work with a lot of other people as well. Here's a Bolshevik cavalry. But these are all multi-part metal. And as you can see, terrific amount of detail. Some people I know will also be looking at that going terrific amount of flash, but just, suck it up, people. Sharp knife.
That's what clippers and knives are for. Yeah.
Some people, they're like that. But it's one of those. I mean, theoretically, you could use some of these for the First World War Russians anyway, because they are just the same people doing the same thing.
Would they still be okay for Russo-Japanese War as well then at the same time? Because that was more or less around the same time period, wasn't it? So,
before they started factionally fighting. Yeah,
the war that sort of broke Russia, really, isn't it? So.
Well, so many of them, and yet they just keep on coming back. Those big guns are great. Also, you notice it's the white and Bolshevik cannons, so white and red army. So in most cases, it just means you're going to be changing up the bits of the uniform or the commanders. So you lose your lovely red stars
behind the things. Yeah. Canon Blanc.
Look how happy they are. Not for long,
I get to shoot people. Whee!
Yeah, then things will all go horribly, horribly wrong. Yeah. A lot of cavalry, which is just great because there were so many of them.
Thundering through the streets.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I want to say goodbye to you and hello to you. So Bolshevik Major. I mean, he's a cracking sculpt.
He looks amazing.
Yeah. I know you're keen now, aren't you? You do a little Bolshevik force. Shay. Tiny little Bolshevik force.
Could do, Jerry. Could do a Russian Civil War, me and you.
Yeah.
Blood and ballast calling.
I was going to say it could be the White Army, but to be brutally honest, there are so many different factions fighting in that Blood and Valor that it doesn't necessarily have to be them.
And they do all the gubbins for you then. So they've got the infantry, they've got the leaders, they've got the artillery, they've got the vehicles. So I
mean, obviously they're gearing stuff towards their rule set where it's sort of 30 aside type of thing. So it's about the same figure count as Blood and Valor as well. But I mean, just look at them.
They're great.
Look at them with their modern machine gun tearing forward. And it's always nice to see dead people. I like casualty models.
Casualty markers.
Because could be markers if you're going to be playing bigger mounted bases, then having some casualties strewn about makes it look like they're actually fighting rather than just toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And this particular unit were apparently Scottish, so that was interesting.
There were many different factions in the Russian Civil War.
Of Scotland. The winter dress, I think, are one of my favorite. I was like, I mean, if you're going to fight in Russia, you expect them to be, dealing with the savage elements, and this poor fella having to lug that forward.
God, yeah,
like a stormtrooper. You go, boy.
That's really cool. I like the. I assume that's their kind of cold weather protection on their backs kind of thing that they've got. I think it looks like those things that you get with little tiny mitten holes on the end.
I believe that is some form of hood.
It's the hat with mitten glove.
Yeah.
Up and then wrap, the two little flappy bits on either side wrap around your face when the hood is up.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
We were close.
John's thing.
Yeah. I mean, not a million miles away. Obviously, their mittens would be dangling off their arms. If anybody wants to sculpt little green stuff mittens and dangle them from their sleeves like they're on strings, that would be great, and we would be forever in your debt.
Once we've done shooting each other, we can have a snowball fight.
But like I say, it's the red and white army with a host of armored. I'm really tempted to get some of the armored cars because I'm sure I can find uses for them elsewhere. He's very far away. You're very far away. Why are you so far away, tiny armor car? But the others, the sort of the standard ones we see in the first page in resin, are really, really nice figures.
They're really nice. I like that they've focused in on a particular setting and a particular war that was fought out. And they're just basically going, no, we're going to own this. We're going to do the miniatures that you need for this particular conflict and just do them really well. I think it's a really nice way of doing things.
And I mean, they've come a long way in a very short amount of time because Darth Cheese only really set up as a company early last year. And then the Russians came out in short order.
Wow.
Then the Arab Revolt, which we're going to take a look at now, is open the Bolsheviks before we go, is sort of new this year. So in under a year, they've got sort of two fleshed out skirmish factions for the Russian Civil War, and now they're working on the Arab Revolt as well.
Brilliant.
They are just classic. Look at that.
They're lovely miniatures.
With his big mustache. Yeah. You do one, Stalin. Anyway.
Really characterful. And the other thing that's nice about them is that because of the size of the game, which is around that 30 model mark,
yeah,
you've got a lot of troops in there that feel very unique individuals as well, which is what you want to see at that scale, which is good.
I mean, if you don't have somebody you can force into playing with you, like then it's reasonable that you can pick up both factions, both nations for yourself, or factions in the case of the Russian Civil War. But this range kind of blew me away. Now, unfortunately, these are not made out of sweet metal like nature intended. These are 3D prints. However, he has been putting together a set of Arabs and British officers and I was going to say auxiliary, but they weren't really. They were what do you call it, John, when you send somebody off to tell people how to fight?
Advisor?
Advisor, that's the word I was looking for. Thank God for that. So British officers and advisors alongside the Arabs, which it's a really interesting point. Obviously, there are railways, which is great for Lloyd. And getting your hands on Ottomans is very easy. But finding the various Arab figures is probably a little trickier in most cases. And generally when people think World War I, they think Europe, as we always do, and kind of forget about stuff that happened out in Palestine and out in Syria and all the rest of it. And these are just gorgeous models.
They're lovely. When you said that they're 3D prints, then are they 3D printed resins that they then send that to you physically?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Cool.
So they're not selling STLs. They're shipping you a physical thing,
right?
Like nature intended. Because if I'm buying stuff, I don't want ones and zeros. Ones and zeros can stay in the box.
There's enough of those on the bill.
Hey. I'll just chuck out a few
more. I
am
on fire. He
says, you really
are you?
I think
yes,
so.
John.
There's good old Lawrence of Arabia himself.
Very nice. I love that model. It's really cool.
Yeah, and you can also get them mounted as well.
Monte.
So, I mean, this range in particular, the Lawrence and the sort of the Arab Rising stuff is just great. Just so much character in all of the sculpts. And when you're doing small scale stuff and you've got somebody as famous as Faisal and Lawrence and all the rest, then why not go the extra mile and get some really bespoke, I suppose, models.
You could sit and watch the film whilst you do the painting.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
That's
a weekend sorted.
Obviously, there are also Ottomans. A little less interesting because they're just blokes running about the place.
There's a lot of the Ottomans.
Not a bit of furniture between.
A lot of them.
I can't bring him anywhere. He's gone wild.
You best not be doing this at UKGE.
100% he will be.
Boy, he'll be getting the smack.
He's on a high. He's on a high, I say. So, obviously, a smaller range at the moment for both the Arab Revolt and the Ottomans, but you can see, obviously, where they're going, which is good. And I mean, if you pick up the Arabs from here, if you do that 3D printing thing, War Games Atlantic have done Ottoman add-ons for their German plastics, so you can potentially then pick up the Ottomans a bit cheaper and then throw the extra cash towards getting Lawrence and his companions.
Yeah, some of the more specific models that you need. Yeah.
There's also currently a set of 2 French kits. So little colonial French with a Hotchkiss. I wish I'd found that earlier because trying to find a Hotchkiss in 28mm was a monumental pain in my backside for our World War I French army that we've been building recently. And I managed to find some, but I just wish I'd found these first. Just saying. Anyway, people should contact me with what they do in case I need it. Send me lists of stuff you do, people. And then some officers with their
that's so cool. I really like that.
Pack ponies.
Yeah.
Vive la France. Break out the mayonnaise. Yeah. That's their national anthem, isn't it? Mayonnaise. Pretty sure it is. They are going to not want us to ever look at their stuff ever again, are they? But yeah.
Could you not feature us ever?
Yeah, please don't talk about us or our nation, or we'll come round and set fire to your house. And we'll do it because we're French. Anyway, like I say, the range itself is from the trenches to the barricades, but in French.
Des Tranchees Aux Barricades.
And it'll be fascinating to see where they go. If they'll expand the ranges a bit further, or if they're going to go into something else afterwards. Because I imagine if they've got what they need for the Russian Civil War, and they're just starting to do the same with the Arab Revolt and the Ottomans, will they just get to the same sort of size of catalogue for the Arabs and Ottomans, and then go, right, well, we don't need any more for skirmish, so we'll just leave it at that, and then go to another period? Or will they or not another period, another theatre?
I'd sense that the creators are particular fans of that World War I period, so maybe we'll just see them look at another very specific portion of that period and bring that to life.
Or maybe they're just looking for those little niche areas that haven't been covered.
That haven't been explored yet.
Maybe.
In which case, I mean, the Sino War, so we might get the Japanese at some point as well.
Oh, yeah.
If they've already done the Russians, then, instead of sticking just there, just expand.
Yeah, definitely.
East.
Do the other Japanese side. Yeah.
Could be a fascinating way to do things. But yeah, definitely one to check out, especially if you're interested in getting involved in some World War I skirmishing fun. And by the way, if you are French, speak French, and have any of those games, I'm dying to find out about that sort of board game one with the little
it looks really cool.
tokens, because I'm
chits and counters. Yeah.
Just to see what it's like, because I'm by nature a curious man. Just thought I'd let you know. Right, we're going to take a quick swish, and when we come back, we'll dive into the news.